It's another fine day at Camp Dynasty. I am Counselor Austin, joined by Counselor Collin. We are coming off of week 7 of college football, but we are not here to hand out badges for week 7, which kind of unfortunate. The slate kind of popped a little bit. There were some campers I would have loved to shout out this week, but you got your notes right there. But we're not doing that because week 7 is a special moment in the college season in that it is kind of the middle point of the season, of the regular season at least. You think of a kind of a 14-week situation, give or take for some teams. This is midway. So we are going to revisit our rankings from this summer because I think when we went through our rankings in summer, we were talking about how this was likely to be the most fluid class that we have covered thus far. And so midseason was going to be crazy. And now we've arrived at midseason, and I think it's going to get a little crazy in here.
Yeah, we're not always right, but in that case, it felt like pretty spot on because I've been toying with my mid-season rankings. You know, like every week you kind of take a look at it, see your rankings, see where you lay on certain players, and it's so fluid this year where I'm slotting guys up like 2-3 spots. I'm moving guys down. Usually mid-season rankings are just like a check-in and being like, hey guys, let's not overreact to like what's happened to the first half of the season. But the first half of the season has been almost like this referendum on these players of we're looking at like, who are these guys? Like, what are they going to prove to us? This class has been lauded as like, a terrible, like this class sucks. Wait till 2027, move your 2026 picks down the line a year, and we'll see like what this looks like in the future. And so I was saying a lot in the summer, like guys are going to pop out. We're going to have more players. This class is going to fill up a little bit, and we're going to feel good at midseason with a cast of characters that we can go in and work into this 2026 class. And I don't know, man. I don't know if that's true. So we'll see where we ended up on these players and how we feel about these top 12s at this midseason point. But I'm still a little bit shaky, I would say.
Yeah, we've gained a few, I think, but we've also lost a few.
Exactly.
And that's the problem. And I think when we look at it like big picture, like just how do you feel about your 12 today that we're going to run through, top 12s here? From my perspective, if I have a late first right now, if I have a pick that is appearing to be a late first, or if I am a rebuilding team that acquired some 26 picks and those picks are now looking like they could be later in this draft, later in the first round, I am starting to not feel great about that. I am starting to feel like I might lose some value because the experience that I had was when I was stacking the 12, I had a bunch of guys at the end of the round that I was saying to myself, man, I would love to pick you with a second round pick.
Yep.
Like, I would love to get you on my team at 207 and not 110,
That's the other thing about this mid-season check-in. While it's mid-season in college football, you're also 6 weeks into the NFL season and into your fantasy season. So you should probably have a pretty good idea of what your team is in Dynasty and what direction you're probably thinking about going. Trade deadline's probably still down the road a little bit, but you should start thinking like, hey, do I have leverage? Can I push these 2026 chips in maybe and like make a big trade, get a running back, get a receiver, shore up this team? Or should I maybe, try to get some higher 2026 picks, because I want to be in that first half of that round and maybe sell some parts off if the team isn't doing so hot. So I think that's another piece of this where people are maybe sitting at 2-4 or 1-5, or maybe you have a decent record, but the points per game aren't looking so pretty, and you can start to look ahead at this 2026 class and say, well, what do we have in stock here? Should I be investing in this 2026 class, or should I kind of lay off and wait and see, maybe push some chips in and make a run at this 2026 class or make a run this year with those 2026 pieces?
Yep. So before we jump into the 12, I just disclaimer here, like there is some 2025 all 22 out right now. I did watch some. Honestly, typically for this one, I don't really dive too far into the all 22 yet, because it's like we're kind of, we're watching these games, we're going the week to week. We have a pretty good sense of the players from summer, watching the film from last year. In this case, there was like splitting of hairs. There was also like, this can't be my 12th player, right? Like there's got to be somebody else. So I got into a little bit, but this is not a full tape dive. This is not a, when we get into rankings 2.0, which comes here at the end of the college football season, around the first of the year, we'll kick into that series. That is when we are diving headfirst into the film from this season to make really, really strong, put grades on guys and form really strong opinions about them. In this case, it's more of a check-in, kind of how the board has shifted for each of us over the course of this season so far.
Yeah.
So that's just a little bit of boilerplate language there to say, like, this is not necessarily like if I end up switching some of these again in 7 weeks, like there's a reason for that.
And if you're popping in for, the first time this season, or if you're, usually come in on rankings episodes, or if you're here every week, appreciate you guys. Normally during the season, we'll do weekly reports and we'll cover, the college football season week to week, but also at the end of those shows, we do kind of a big picture dynasty breakdown. So if you're not super into the nitty gritty college football stuff, the prospect stuff, and you want to more, sit back and listen to just some more dynasty stuff and trade values and stuff like that, pop in, timestamp, all grown up. We love doing that stuff too. So tune in.
It's a fun ride.
That's right.
But here's a little bit of a glimpse into what might be coming after this college football season. I'm going to do it to you.
Okay.
I'm going to hand you the reins. Give me your number 12 player right now.
My number 12 player right now is LaNorris Sellers. So obviously,
can I just say,
yeah,
same.
Yep. I love it. I'm glad we're still
look at us go
on this together. But yeah, LaNorris Sellers has probably not had as good of a season as we've wanted him to, but he hasn't necessarily been bad either. I think this South Carolina team has a pretty bad supporting cast. I think that's been the takeaway that I've had. Sellers is trying to play hero ball quite a bit in this offense. A lot of running around, a lot of trying to do it himself, and I don't really blame him. I mean, these wide receivers have had moments where they look good, but are not like separating very well, are really good athletes, really good downfield threats, but doesn't really have like a quick outlet, I don't think. And so more often than not, it becomes him trying to become the quick outlet himself, but still showing all of the things that we saw preseason in the summer of this is a guy that is extraordinary with his legs and has a great arm, has, I think better downfield accuracy this year than he did last year. That was one of my kind of dings on him. I think that he has pretty solid downfield accuracy. I think that's improved this year. So I have Sellers still in this first round, still the dynamic, dual threat quarterback that is finding his way into the bottom of the first round. This as a disclaimer for anybody that's coming in, this is non-super flex. This is a standard scoring system. It's a quarterback plus, which is 6-point passing touchdown and 6-point rushing touchdown. I think it's better than super flex, but a lot of people play super flex. So if you're coming in here and you're like, whoa, Sellers at 12, that's why.
Yeah. So is he QB1 for you right now?
He is.
So I have Sellers at 12 as well. He is also still QB1 for me. Or I should say is now QB1 for me because he was not. That was Arch Manning. And obviously Arch has not had the season that anybody was hoping for. No, it does not mean that he's always been bad. It's just there's a lot of things going on with him. And so it's pretty apparent that he will be returning to school. As he most likely was going to do anyway. And now it just so happens he's going to need that extra year at least to try to figure this out. But Sellers, like you said, is not having the year that I would have hoped for. I had him ranked in summer. Let's see. He was the number 6 overall player for me in summer. And that was exceptionally high, but it was because of the strength of the class. I was putting him above some of my tier 2, 3 type receivers. And I didn't have I had only 2 running backs in the top 12. Like this was going to be a situation where positions like this were going to rise. And Sellers was one of the guys I had in the middle of the round. He's now falling here to the end. I'm not sure if it's a warranted position for him, but I'm clinging to what I saw in the summer. I'm clinging to this idea that he can continue to grow over the second half of the season. Honestly, this season hasn't been terrible for him or anything like that. There's little volume in this passing offense right now. He is averaging 19 attempts per game. He only has 116 attempts on the year. So you look at a player here who has just over 1,000 yards passing through 6 games, and you're kind of thinking like that, what? Like, what is happening? He's got 4 touchdowns, 2 picks. Like the counting numbers are very low, but he's not throwing the ball a ton. And when you look at stuff like the big time throws, the rate is on par with what he had last year. He had 4.9% big time throw percentage last year. He's at 4.8 this year. So he's right in line with it, despite having less in terms of the overall number. The turnover worthy play rate has dropped substantially, which was a big thing that we were looking for. Can he become a little bit, less dangerous with the ball? Can he improve his decision making? Maybe dial back the confidence just a tad, like read before the play, before you're going to fire some things into tight, triple coverages over the middle of the field and things like that. But he, at least on the numbers side, 4.6% turnover worthy play rate last year. He's down to 2.4% this year. So if that's any indication of what the film is going to say with him, that's certainly exciting to consider the fact that maybe he is taking care of the football a little bit better this year. Things that I can't necessarily know for sure right now. Is he improving as an intermediate passer? Is he not relying on his legs as much as he did last year? These are things that will come when we really dive into this quarterback class and dive into Sellers' film in particular. It's a very fluid quarterback situation right now. I have he is QB1 for me right now. Guys like Fernando Mendoza, guys that I haven't even watched really yet, like Dante Moore. These are the sorts of players that are kind of knocking on the doorstep for this QB1 spot. But right now, I'm hanging on to Sellers in this spot until I have a reason to say otherwise.
And when you say you haven't watched Dante Moore, you mean like tape breakdown?
All 22 tape breakdown.
Not
correct.
like you don't know who Dante Moore is.
Yeah, I haven't watched an Oregon game all year.
I just wanted to clarify that. Also, I've also noticed from what I've seen from Sellers, also I haven't done like a full, tape study on Sellers, but from what I've seen, O-line has been getting consistently worse. That's reflected also in the numbers where you look at the amount of pressure that he's taking, the amount of dropbacks that he's taking, that he's been pressured on in the last 3 games. last game against LSU, his worst statistical game so far this season, was pressured on 26 dropbacks. He dropped back 40 total times. So that's an enormous number. And then previous game, 11 pressures on how many dropbacks? 21. And then 19 pressures on 35 dropbacks against Mizzou. So that's 3 weeks in a row where he's getting pressured on more than half of his dropbacks and sometimes substantially more. So hard to evaluate a player when he's under duress all the time, but he's also holding on the ball for a really long time. His time to throw is up at 3.36 seconds. That does, come with the caveat of he should be holding the ball out longer because he's such a good, extender of plays. So it all works itself into LaNorris Sellers, freak athlete that is a good thrower of the football with maybe a questionable supporting cast, in my opinion.
Yeah, the line was bad on film from last season. It's appearing that it's still bad.
Yeah, we need a new scout in the building.
So yeah, that's definitely not helping. The rushing numbers also have gone down this year. He is, like last year, there was a lot of times where like the line fails and a rusher has two hands on him and he somehow escapes, like, Lamar Jackson type stuff. I mean, he was doing that. It seemed like every single week last year, every game I watched of him from last year, he was doing something stupid like that. This year, I mean, the numbers are just not where they were. So
Yeah.
I wonder how much of that is, maybe he's not getting out of some of those sticky situations as cleanly as he did last year. He has started to kind of pick it up here over the last 2 games, 98 yards on the ground against Kentucky in week 5 and 74 against LSU this last week in week 7. So we'll see maybe if that trend continues into the second half of the season, because that is such an asset of his. This is definitely a quarterback that is a true dual threat and a true mega upside rusher from the quarterback position.
Yeah, absolutely. And he's scrambling more lately. Has had some designed runs, obviously, every game. But like in this last game against LSU, had 8 scramble runs versus 6 designed runs. So he's gonna, maybe start doing it himself a little more. He usually opts to scramble to pass, but seems like gotta tuck it and go every once in a while yourself.
Okay, so do you want to keep it going, or do you want me to do my number 11?
I'll keep it going. I have Eli Stowers here at 11, tight end from Vanderbilt. Again, not a huge statistical season. Do you have him in your top 12?
I don't.
Okay. So, not an incredible statistical season. If you've been around, we gave him a badge a couple weeks ago for a 68-yard performance against Utah State. It's just, the counting numbers are not spectacular, but when it comes to tight ends, that's not really what you're looking for. There's some of the outliers like, Warren and Bowers and, these names that come down the line that are exceptional. And those are the guys that usually find themselves in the first round of Dynasty rookie drafts. This is a situation where I need to find players that I'm excited about to put in the bottom of my first round, and Stowers is somebody that has the ability and the athleticism and the fluidity. Like, he has all the tools to be a good receiving tight end, and he gets he's getting a lot of opportunity. It's just not converting into these big gaudy numbers. So I'm still excited about Stowers. I think he's having a fine season with Vandy, and we'll see where this season takes us with this tight end class, but I still think he's atop it.
Yeah, I had Stowers at number 10 in the summer. So I had him a little bit lower than you did in the summer. And in this case, he's just falling just outside of my 12. 13 or 14 is where I'd have him right now. I mean, I'm still very excited about what I saw from him in the summer. This honestly just goes back to one of the things that we talked about maybe back then, maybe at some point during the year, of like kind of having to almost recalibrate our expectations for tight ends because of the classes that we're coming off of. Like, Bowers, Warren, Loveland. I mean, these are players that are, rare breeds at the position. So it's like you get pretty used to having guys up there in the first round, like Bowers 4th overall. And I mean, we had the other 2 guys last year ranked kind of in the middle of the first round. And I mean, it was an awesome draft class. So that was, kind of a big time praise as well. In this case, it's like, I like Stowers a lot. He's still my tight end 1 right now. Sadiq is like right on his heels for me at this point. But honestly, Sadiq hasn't really shown me what I was hoping for this year as a receiver, at least. So like both of those guys maybe haven't hit the next level that I was looking for. But in Stowers' case, he's kind of just on the same level. And I think it's one of those things that from what I've seen, it kind of just feels like, all right, this is going to be a good tight end prospect. It's a tight end prospect that I can get excited about. It's probably a player that I'm going to want to draft in the second round. I mean, this is probably going to be one of those situations for me where it's like more of that Michael Mayer, Sam Laporta tier of player where I'm picking them with a high second rather than a low first. So there's a chance that could change. Obviously, we've just talked about the bottom of this round being a little bit leaving something to be desired. Maybe by the end of the season, it makes more sense to have one of these guys in the top 12 for me. But for right now, I have them just outside.
Yeah. A couple numbers on the Stowers front. Only 5 missed tackles forced through the first half of this season, which is close to what he put up last year with 13 total. But he's a big play threat, which is, the reason that you can kind of be okay with that. He has a catch of at least 20 yards in all but 2 games so far this season, with 2 40-plus yard receptions. He's just a reliable athletic tight end. He's line up in line 35% of the time, which is a lot more than some of these guys that are flexing out to the slot quite a bit. So just a good, versatile, fluid tight end prospect that's a little bit undersized maybe, but makes up for that. I think he's a fine blocker and just a good downfield receiver.
Makes up for it by being a dog.
Yeah, that's right. Dog.
He's a dog. All right. Number 11 for me. I'm curious if you did it. I have Justice Haynes.
I have him higher.
You have him higher?
Yep.
A lot higher?
I mean, a reasonable amount higher. A couple spots higher.
Should we? Do you want to? You can tell me. Do you want to wait?
No, let's go for it.
Okay. So where do you have him?
I have him at 8.
Okay. So this is a tricky one for me, and we've had this situation happen before where it's like, is it really only going to be 2 running backs in the first round? Yep. Like, is running back 3 really going to go like at the end of the round? Like, that kind of thing happens. So, but for me, I need to see more from Haynes down the stretch. He's putting good film on this year. I watched 2 games. He was one of the few players that I had, there's a couple of games out there to watch from him. It was the Nebraska game and the, what was it? Nebraska and Oklahoma games. I watched all 22 from that. And I mean, he looks good. He does look good. It's why I'm feeling comfortable enough to put him up here into the top 12 at this point. He's the sort of player though, where I kind of wonder, is he a jack of all trades running back and a master of none running back? Because I can't figure out what his standout trait is yet. He runs with good power. I mean, there's certainly plays in those 2 games that I watched in particular where, I mean, he's lowering the shoulder and guys are hitting the ground and he's picking up extra yards in those plays. I mean, the one game, I think it was, the Nebraska game, 7.35 yards after contact per attempt. He had 125 yards after contact in that game. He was running with real power in that game, but it comes and goes for him. It hasn't been a consistent element this season. Same could go for like the breakaway ability, which has honestly been kind of a welcomed surprise. Like, to see this player have a little bit of juice, have a little bit of burst when he gets through the line and he can turn it on through the second level. I mean, he has multiple runs this year of 75 yards. Like, he's putting those kinds of runs on film. So he's not just a plotter. He's not just like a, lower the shoulder kind of a guy. He's got a little bit of juice with him as well. But I just wonder, does he have that thing that's going to make him stand out at the NFL level?
Yeah, I feel that totally. The reason that I have him here is mostly because it's like, what are we gonna do with these running backs, man? Like, are any of them gonna be like, are any of them gonna jump out? Are we gonna, like you said, have only 2 running backs in the first round? Just don't see it happening. And I think Haynes has made the best case so far in the first half of this season to introduce himself into this first round. And some of these numbers that are jumping out at me is a third of his runs have gone for a first down. 54% of his yards have come on breakaway runs, which are 15-plus yard runs. So he's getting chunks in this Michigan offense, and pretty, 383 of his yards have come after contact. So, those numbers kind of line up with each other. If you talk about, breaking a tackle and then getting some big chunks, that's normally what you got to do as a running back. This Michigan offensive line has been very good. So, that's not their run blocking has been very good. So that's hasn't made his life a lot harder, but what he's doing with that is executing at a very high and a very efficient level, sitting at 7.4 yards per attempt, has 8 touchdowns on the season, has, well over 100 and whatever yards per game. Like, he is crushing it in terms of production. And then only thing I would like to see, there, like you said, there's not like anything exceptional about him. It's like find hole, hit hole, get yards. And it's like sometimes break that tackle, turn on the jets, and let's see, if we can turn this into something big. And it's not consistent. I would love to see, some real consistent play, but sometimes all you need, and I've said this a lot of times, is like a guy to get 5 yards, to get 4 yards, to just like go get a first down and don't fumble the ball. That's all I need out of my running back. And he's put the ball on the ground 0 times this season. Like I said, 7.4 yards per carry. We're talking about a player that is, getting all of the things done that you need out of like a lunch pail runner, where you're just like clock in, dominate, and then clock out. So I'd like to see him catch some more passes. Has only had 10 receptions so far in the season for 31 yards, so hasn't really done much in that sense. But a fun player that has worked his way into this after being pretty much an afterthought at Alabama for 2 seasons.
Yeah, I mean, it's exciting that a running back emerged from this class. I mean, that's the big thing, because it was looking really scary. I mean, it's still looking very scary past Haynes, I'll say that. But like this is kind of one of those players where it's like, I'd love to take this guy with a second. Like, yeah. I'd love to spend 208 on Justice Haynes. I don't want to really spend 110 on him.
Yeah. And obviously, this is all contingent on like NFL draft capital and what those running back rooms. But as of now,
of course, yeah. I mean, I'm looking at my 2025. I pulled up 2025 because I was like,
"Don't do that."
It's a mistake, obviously, in this kind of a class. But I'm thinking of a player like Cam Scattaboo, who I had as my number 15 player, and I'm like, I got that guy in the high second. And the grade that I have on Scattaboo is substantially higher than the one that I am seeing on Haynes as of right now. So it's like the fact that I have to take one of those players in the first and the other one I got, it's like, that's the kind of stuff that, makes this class kind of put a little bit of a sour taste in your mouth.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like I said, it's good that a running back is emerging here, giving us something to maybe latch onto. And, by the end of this season, dive fully into his year and see what we have here with Haynes.
Yep, I agree.
So then number 10 for you.
Number 10 for me is an IDP. Rueben Bain. Do you have Meyer?
I do. I have him at 9.
Okay, cool. So Rueben Bain, edge out of Miami, has been dominant all season. Has lived up to pretty much what we've wanted him to be. I think I don't know. Did we both have him as in our IDP rankings?
When we we didn't do rankings this summer. We did our little introduction episode, right. And we did talk about him on that show.
I was going to say, I can't remember where we ranked guys, but that's because we didn't. So good job by us. But Rueben Bain has 3 sacks on the season, which, maybe not eye-popping numbers, but has 29 total pressures already, accentuated by a 10-pressure game against Florida State last week, 7 pressures the week prior against Florida, so kind of turn it up a little bit. Is hitting the QB, has 23 QB hurries, 21 tackles. So this is a guy that has a high floor when we talk about IDP prospects. If if you don't love IDP, start playing IDP. But there's timestamps for a reason. If you don't want to hear about this, that's okay. But if you do, high floor for Rueben Bain. We're talking about a really good run defender that sets the edge, that finds work in plays. It feels like there was a little bit of a question of like motor and if he's going to chase you down from the backside. It feels like he's doing a little bit more of that this year, a little more hustle plays here and there. But a strong edge defender that gets after the quarterback, obviously, but also plays some strong run defense. So we're talking about a guy that's going to put up those tackle numbers and then put some exclamation points when he gets those high sack games. So I'm pretty excited about this player.
Yeah, if you're not playing IDP, start next year so you can have Rueben Bain in your lineup. That's what it's all about. Yeah. I mean, he's been a blast to watch this season. I think it's pretty apparent that he is one of, if not the best player in college football, pound for pound right now. He is quickly, entering his name in the conversation for number 1 overall player in the NFL draft, I would say. I don't think he goes 101 because we're expecting some sort of quarterback mania probably again this year, but he'll be a top 5 pick as, with the body of work that he's putting out through the first half, at least. And the point about the tackles is like, yeah, you're not going to, and we talked about this, I think it was last week. This is not the kind of player that's like Will Anderson or, Abdul Carter, where it's like, he is a athletic freak, pure pass rusher, like that type of player that you're feeling really, really confident is going to become like a 12 plus sack player at the NFL level. But that being said, I made the point about like, I'd love to get him more in the top of the second, but when you look at this class, first of all, this class factors into it. Bain's going to climb up here into this class just because like, there's just guys that like, I want Bain more than some of these, wide receiver 3 types that we're talking about here. So, I mean, from that point of view, he's getting into the first round, but there's also something to be said about that floor production. And like, it's not a place you want to live with these guys. Like, you don't want to make your living drafting defensive linemen because of their floor. Like, these are ceiling plays. You want the guys that are going to be putting up the huge sack numbers. That's why they're worth first round picks in some instances. But in this case, it's like, it's not that Rueben Bain couldn't be a 10 plus sack player at the NFL level. In fact, that's kind of what I would imagine for him down the line. He's also just the player that's going to be playing on rundowns every time as well.
Yep.
He is going to be on the field for, 80+% of snaps every single game. And when you just look at the pure tackle numbers for him this season, I mean, it's like, he's got 21 solo tackles this year. You put that up against a guy like David Bailey, who we've talked about a lot already in this young season. He is the most productive pass rusher right now in college football. He has 44 pressures. He has 9 sacks. He's going to be a first-round pick in the NFL draft. He has 8 tackles this year.
Yep.
Like, he is a pure pass rush specialist. Bain is an every down defensive lineman that is capable of developing into a 10+ sack player because of the tools that he has, because of the athleticism that he has, even at his size of 280 plus. So he's a floor play, he's a ceiling play, and that's why it's kind of like you can't really exclude him from this conversation.
Yeah, exactly. And we had that conversation where we're like, sometimes when you say someone has a high floor, it makes it sound like they're boring or like you don't want to be involved in that. But, maybe we've learned our lesson a little bit with a few players down the road, or maybe it's just like, hey, I want the guy that's going to score points, and Rueben Bain's going to score points.
I'm sick of starting defensive linemen that score 1 point on 2 weeks and then score 15 the next week.
Yeah, you're going to say 40 because you're thinking of Tui Pelotu.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's a whole nother conversation.
Yeah. My 2 D linemen scored a combined .75 last week, so I'm in that boat.
Yeah, give me 6, 5, 46.
Yeah, right.
All right, so that was your number 10.
That's my number 10.
And my number 10 is, okay. So here's where I got into the film a little bit because I was like, I just don't like any of the players that I want to rank here. I got to find somebody else. And I had a pleasant surprise with this player, and it's Casey Concepcion.
Okay.
I'm assuming he's not in your top 12.
He's not, but I did play for Texas A&M on College Football 26, and he's my favorite receiver. So
there it is. So Concepcion is not a player that is coming out of thin air for me. This is a player that I watched in the summer because he was one of these guys that 2 years ago got put very early on the 2026 spreadsheet, like all the way back in 24, because he was a true freshman at North Carolina State that led all true freshman receivers that season in receiving yardage and touchdowns. He had a huge year for them, 845 yards and 10 touchdowns as a true freshman. So he put himself on the map that season. He quickly gets jotted down as like 2026, like maybe this is going to be one of the top guys. And he had a real dud last year at NC State. Really rough season, 460 yards. He did have 6 touchdowns, but I watched the 24 film ahead of this year, and it was really uninspiring. He looked like a player that was disinterested in the situation. The quarterback play was really bad, and his play was not like he wasn't elevating above that situation. Let's just say that. So I kind of just put him to the side. I was like, I don't know what happened here, but like, I don't see a player that's going to be factoring in, at least for right now. And we haven't talked about him yet. Like, we haven't given him a badge this season, but he's having a really solid year for Texas A&M. They also have another wide receiver in Mario Craver that's kind of stealing the spotlight for them. He's going to be a 2027 guy. I think he's a true sophomore this year. So he's kind of been operating more as their one. He's had some really, really big boom games for them this year. But Concepcion has been operating as a really, really good number 2 for them. He's at 447 yards and 5 touchdowns through the 6 games this season. And watching him, it looks like some of that juice is back. Like, it looked like he got out of whatever was happening at NC State and got re-energized and added a little bit of weight. Even his weight is listed. He was at around 185 at NC State. He's now at 190. So it's not a huge difference, but it does show up a little bit. He does look a little bit bigger out there, 5'11". So he's another one of these smaller players, but he is playing outside for them quite a bit. On the season, he's lining up outside 68% of the time. So he's a player that is beating press coverage a decent amount despite his size. He's also lining up in the slot, looks great out of the slot as well. He's got excellent, excellent burst and juice out of his breaks. Like, he is one of these guys that is stemming a corner and just exploding like into a dig route in the middle of the field. And he's running some double moves, like a variety of double move routes where he's really selling it on guys. He's looking like he's fully back. So I'm not ready to like plant a flag yet or say that this is like one of the top wide receivers, because I got a lot of wide receivers coming yet. He's not like a top 5 wide receiver for me in this class, but like what I've seen through the 6 games so far of him at A&M has been really, really encouraging.
Yeah, Concepcion's a really good mover. I just like him with the ball in his hands in general. Returns punts for A&M and is pretty good with that. And then obviously as a slot receiver, going to do some of that gadgety stuff in these college offenses, get some handoffs, get some like little touch jet passes. Has 8 missed tackles forced so far on the season. Has 2.83 yards per route run, which is pretty nice. But he's also getting involved downfield, like you said, as like a double move guy. Runs a really nice comeback route. Has a 15.3 average depth of target. So he's getting downfield. He's running these big boy routes, like from the outside, from the X position, but also running from the slot and doing some of that more like gadgety run after the catch stuff. So he's a varied receiver that does a lot of different things. I like him a lot. Also contested catches 4 for 6 on the season. So he's turned a 50-50 ball into a 60-40 ball. So that's all encouraging stuff. I will be keeping tabs on Concepcion through the season. He just missed it out of the first round for me. I've also been like keeping an eye on him. I thought about giving him badge week 5 against Auburn. Like, it's like, man, we'll see. We'll see what's up with this player. But I have some fun watching him.
Yeah, that Auburn game was one of the games that was available with all 22, and that was the one where I watched it and it was like, all right, I'm gonna watch the other one now.
Yeah,
I'm gonna watch the Notre Dame one that's also here, because like that was pretty cool. I'm glad you brought up the yak numbers, because that is something that I really wanted to hit on here, because he was a big time yak player in that season, in that true freshman season at North Carolina State. 7.3 per reception, 18 missed tackles forced that season, just cratered in that dud sophomore year. 5 yards after the catch per reception and only 7 missed tackles forced on the entire season. You brought it up. He's already over that number this year at 8, and the yards after catch per is at 6.4. So he's finding a little bit more of that life after the catch again this year. And the only real weakness that I have, outside of like being a little bit of a smaller player, the hands have been a problem for him all 3 years of school. He's sitting at an 8.9% career drop rate. He's at 9.7 this year. So the contested stuff is up for him this year. And one of those catches was on one of the games that I watched. He made an amazing catch on a deep ball with 2 defenders all over him, but there's still some of that, easy stuff that he's leaving behind. So that's something to watch with him as well. But yeah, I mean, he's a player with a lot of juice, a lot of explosiveness, and an exciting skill set to keep your eyes on.
Yeah. So is my next player.
Ooh,
We want to keep it rolling.
Who you got?
Chris Brazzell.
Ooh,
Yep.
okay.
So
Okay.
Is he in your top 12?
He's not.
Okay. So we've given him the moniker, Razzle Dazzle Brazzle. I think we said once upon a time in an episode when we gave him a badge. Week 3 against Georgia when he had a $177 and 3 touchdowns. But has gone over 100 yards 3 times so far this season. Looking at 536 yards, 7 touchdowns so far. This is, I think, your premier deep threat of the class. This is a guy that is, working as a really impressive downfield threat that wins on those boundary, just kind of prayers almost, where he's getting underthrown a lot of these times, even though he has 2-3 yards of vertical separation on these guys. He's stemming them up really nice, he's stacking them well, and then he's getting underthrown, but then he's still working back to the ball and making these catches. He's 4 for 8 on contested catch opportunities, 3.01 yards per route run. He's 14 ADOT, but that's really brought down by 2 games because he has a game of 21.8, 23.2. Like, we're talking about a guy that is getting downfield and getting targeted downfield a lot in this Tennessee offense. 6'5", 200 pounds. This is a bigger wide receiver that's playing almost exclusively out of the Z position in this Tennessee offense, and that's kind of what they do, is they like set their offense and they don't really change it, and they run their gimmicky plays and whatever. We can get into what Tennessee's offense really is, but Brazzell's just straight running by guys, and we're talking about against every kind of team. We're talking about like I said, Georgia, Mississippi State. Obviously, he's beating up on the little guys like Eastern Tennessee, but it had kind of a stinker last week against Arkansas. But overall, has made some, like, on top of being a really good deep threat, he's made some crazy good catches. So I just love the athleticism and the kind of circus catches that he can make. So I was pleasantly surprised with Brazzell's breaking down Brazzell a little bit.
Yeah, as Matt Harmon would put it, this Mickey Mouse offense that Tennessee is running, and we've talked about these guys numerous times over the years. I mean, the Jalen Hyatt, Cedric Tillman year. There was some Dante Thornton hype last year. I mean, like, Tennessee keeps kind of putting these guys front and center. I do think it's really important, because I did watch Brazzell ahead of this. I think it's really important to say, and I know you agree with me because you're ranking him up here, this is not Jalen Hyatt.
Yeah, I agree.
Like, Jalen Hyatt was an incredibly stiff player. He was literally like on train tracks. Like, send the bullet train in one direction, but don't ask it to turn.
And it worked, man.
And it worked for them.
Was slinging that thing.
It worked for them back then, and now we've seen, what that looked like in the NFL. So in this case, that's not what Brazzell is. Much more fluid player, gets into like that post route a lot cleaner than a guy like Hyatt was doing back then. He's running more routes, honestly. Like, there's a decent variety of routes from Brazzell, considering what the nature of this offense. So, and like
slants
you said,
are in there too. It's flies, posts, and slants.
Yeah, I mean, holy shit.
No, you see a couple comebacks and
like a little bit of that.
It's almost a full route tree.
Yeah, I mean, it is a lot of the goes and the posts, but there's a little bit more mixed in, and he's able to execute it well. The catch point stuff, like you touched on as well, that's also been really encouraging to see from him. So he's a player that right now I'm kind of still trying to figure out what I think he's going to be at the NFL level. Like, what is his prospectus in terms of role, and what does that equal for fantasy purposes? But he's certainly a player that has helped himself a lot, and he has entered this sort of a conversation where he's definitely worthy of being in this range of this class.
Yeah, I think, like, when we talk about guys with, this is more of like a ceiling play, I think, with Brazzell versus some of these guys may have like a higher floor play. But I think Brazzell is a pretty good route runner for his size, a fluid athlete for his size, on top of being like a cream of the crop deep threat.
I like that we both are like, when we went back to this, it wasn't just like, let's just reshuffle it around. Like, we still got some, like, no, we're bringing new guys into this equation already. So that's what you love to see. All right, where are we on the list right now?
1, 2, 3, 4. I think we're at your number 9.
My number 9 is Bain. So okay, I think we're on your 8.
My 8, I think, was just Brazzell. 12, 11, 10, 9. Oh, no, my 8 is Justice Haynes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So my 8 is Antonio Williams.
Here we go. Nice. He didn't make the cut for me.
So I was wondering if you would have kept him in or not. This is honestly just one of those things where like he just hasn't been on the field enough
That's true.
this year. Like I can't necessarily like downgrade him quite yet because I just don't know what the rest of this year is going to look like. And to be honest, since he's come back, so this has been an injury situation for him, which is not the first time that this has happened. So this is one of those things where you're talking about a smaller player, 5'11, 190, slot wide receiver. He's had injuries in the past. He's having injuries this year. So that's kind of already like you're putting that on the scouting report, like small guy gets hurt a lot. Yikes. Well, I'm going to give him a chance to prove it down the stretch. We saw the big year from him last year. Watching the film in the summer, we both came away impressed. We were both like, this is one of the top guys in this class. And since he's come back from the injury, he's been slowly ramping up, it seems like. And that culminated this last week in week 7 with his best performance of the season, 7 catches, 85 yards against Boston College. So he's only at 171 yards on the season, but he's only played in 3 games really. So we'll see what it looks like. But he's a player that I'm really kind of just hanging on to my summer evaluation from right now. And he's kind of right where he was in the summer.
Yeah, more so guys kind of slid ahead of him more than I'm knocking him down, because just haven't seen him like you said. And a big thing that I was looking for, again, not to just reiterate everything that you were just talking about, but it's like I would have loved to see what a full healthy Antonio Williams season was going to look like. He talked about how it was kind of, didn't do enough in 2024 and really needed to prove himself in 2025. And so far just hasn't, and it sucks to say that, and it sucks to be like sitting here and talking about a guy that you're high on and it's not working out because of injuries, and that's the worst possible outcome. I think is like when it's out of the player's control and it's just straight like tough. Like I don't know how to evaluate this player when like
The team has also been a disaster
yeah.
too. So you got a lot of things going against Williams this year.
Yep.
That's going to make it a little harder to figure out what you have.
Yeah, Klubnik's a lot worse than I thought he was going to be because that Clemson team's a lot worse than I thought they were going to be. Wesco has kind of broken out as another wide receiver prospect across from Williams. So, some target shares got to go that way. So
You cannot escape the 2027 wide receiver class.
No.
They will swallow up the 26 guys while they can.
Oh, brutal. But I still like Antonio Williams quite a bit. It's just like I like him at 15,
Yeah.
and so we'll see how the rest of the season goes. If he finishes really strong and can stay on the field, could be having a completely different discussion in December.
Yep. Number 7 for you.
Number 7 for me is Denzel Boston.
Same.
There we go. Back on track. So Denzel Boston, Washington wide receiver, 6'4", 210. This is your prototype X receiver, jump ball threat, but also is just a better mover than I think I give him credit for. Not like an incredible after the catch player, but before the catch gets open pretty well, and then also can make those difficult catches. Has 5 contested catches on 8 opportunities, only 3 missed tackles forced. So that's kind of the dichotomy of the player that you're talking about, where you're looking at a guy that you can, trust in those tight coverage situations, but not somebody you're going to like throw a tunnel screen to. So he's been very productive. I was a little, skeptical on Boston going into the season, but he's just been solid. 444 receiving yards, 6 touchdowns so far this year, 30 receptions. So not crazy numbers, but still like pretty consistent game over game. I wish they would throw the ball his way more, but besides that, it's just like I've been pretty impressed by Denzel Boston.
Yeah, he's certainly helped himself this year. He's gotten better this year. I mean, there were some concerning reps from him from 2024 that left me like I liked him. I did like him. He's my type of wide receiver. I was like ready to bang the table for him as a top 5 player, but there were just some plays from last year that was like I'm really questioning the athleticism here. This year, it seems like he's a little bit more explosive. There were some really good routes on film last year, and I think he's gotten even better this year at route running. And what he does best, he's doing at an even higher level this year, which is his catch point talent. I mean, these guys, I know it can be a little scary sometimes. You don't want to make your living being one of these sort of contested catch players like he is, but like 0 drops this season so far and 5 for 8 uncontested. I mean, he has legitimate hands. Like this guy is a beast at the catch point. He's not going to drop passes, and he is going to turn those 50-50 plays in a positive direction for the offense. And a lot of times that's happening in the red zone. He already has a full highlight reel of touchdown catches just this season in one half of the year. Like it feels like all 6 of his touchdowns have been some sort of ridiculous catch in the end zone. So, I mean, I do want to see maybe like let's end the season with some huge performances, but he's already doing enough. And especially in a class like this where he's climbing up the board, these wide receivers are honestly climbing up the board for me in general. So, and he's certainly one of them.
And he catches the ball really well coming over the middle of the field too. I think that can't be, overstated. As a guy that's going to play X receiver, you're going to be asked to, run these big posts, but also like in modern offense, you're going to be running a lot of crossers. You're going to be running a lot of digs, and you got to be able to like get those balls that the quarterback is trying to layer over a linebacker and get down before the safety. And you got to be able to go up and like pluck it while you're getting a guy that's going to come and, hit you in the ribs. And he's had a few of those catches on tape that stood out to me where he's like going up in the air like he would in a one-on-one situation on the outside, but doing that over the middle and like adjusting to a pass that's behind him. And so I've been very impressed, and seems like a guy that you could give a lot of targets to in an offense.
Let me ask you this. Do you see him as one of those players that can move inside in the NFL?
I wouldn't love that, honestly. I
I agree.
Because we talk a lot about like, hey, throw this guy in the slot. Let's see what happens, Boston, I don't think, because just the run after catch stuff is not sexy enough, and a lot of the times you got to like make somebody miss when you're catching like those short routes, those glance routes, stuff like that. You got to be able to get open in a hurry out of the slot, and I think Boston is more of like, let me set up my route,
Yeah, I 100% agree. I wonder if that will come up throughout the process with him just because it is trendy. We're seeing it a lot with these bigger players, but the difference is the bigger players that we're seeing it with are guys like Drake London, who are very fluid,
Right.
very good yak players. And so they can pull that off at this size. He is, to me, he is a pure X wide receiver. He is a pure boundary wide receiver, and he can do that role at a high level in the NFL. But that's what he's going to do.
Yep, I agree. This plays 18% of the snaps out of the slot at Washington right now, so they get him in there a little bit. That's just not where you see him shine.
All right, so number 6.
Number 6 for me is Carnell Tate.
I have him higher.
Okay, sick. Like a lot higher or a couple spots?
I have him at 4.
Okay, hell yeah. So Carnell Tate, we have here the Ohio State wide receiver. Again, you can't escape the 2027 class as much as you want to. Dread it, run from it. We are still wide receiver 2 in this Ohio State offense, but still producing at a very high level. We're talking about 476 yards, 4 touchdowns on 28 receptions. Tate is pretty frequently lining up outside. He's 90% of his snaps outside, and 6'3", 195 pounds. So this is a move XZ receiver. Jeremiah Smith is playing just wherever else in the offense that Carnell Tate isn't. And so Tate is running all these routes from the outside. This is a big play receiver that is like honestly one of the best at the catch point, I think, in this class. You look at what he does to adjust to bad footballs, it's better than any of these guys, where he's going up and over the back of players, he's going down, scooping them off the ground, and a lot of the times like staying up afterwards and running. And that's one of the big things that I highlighted in the summer, that it feels like he's making kind of a calling card throughout this season, where he's just doing these things where it's like, oh man, Carnell Tate and made another one of these crazy highlight plays. So I've been really, really impressed, and that is highlighted with his contested catch conversion rate at 87%. Has 8 contested catch targets and 7 contested catches. So this is like a freakish player at the catch point. Just impressed with how Ohio State keeps churning out these receivers. Like, I don't know how they do it. I thought Carnell Tate might be like a fine receiver that's like, all right, yeah, well, I'm going to throw him on my summer rankings because like he had an okay season and it's Ohio State receiver. But it seems like he's taken himself up another level.
Yeah, he was one of those guys that after his freshman year, it kind of felt like, yeah, maybe this is going to be the one that's like just okay.
Yeah.
But then you remember, like, who were the names on the team when he was a freshman? It's like this is the reality for these guys, where it's like they legitimately have to wait until they are just finally like the number 2 receiver, because it's like there's always going to be a new number 1. You're going to get like the number 1 wide receiver recruit coming in and like being the best player in the sport, and it's like, well, I guess whatever. I'm at Ohio State, so I'll just be a great number 2, and that's what he's doing this year. Like, he's getting his opportunity to prove it this year. I mean, he was good as the number 3 last year. He was good enough to be a top 5 wide receiver for you coming into the season. He was number 6 for me coming into the season. A lot of that was projection based. You're still like waiting for him to take that next step. You think he can. And for me, how he gets to number 4 is, I think he's taken the step. I think he has taken the step that I was looking for. It hasn't been a consistent, dominant season, but you can't expect that. Yeah. I mean, he's still behind Jeremiah. There's still, the passing game is not like Sayin is a first year quarterback for them. So like there's something with that's going to eventually kind of limit these guys in terms of the overall production numbers. But even then, I mean, Jesus, he's at 476 yards this year, 4 touchdowns. Like, he's having a great year. And the thing that you mentioned about the catch point is, I mean, it's so real. Yeah. Like he might be the best catch point player. We just got done talking about Denzel Boston, 0 drops, making highlight reel touchdown catches all year long. The way that Tate is able to track the ball and go up and get it against the sideline consistently and make tough catches consistently. And it's been something that we've seen throughout his entire career, something that showed up on tape, even from the limited action last year. I mean, he is one of the best, if not the best in that regard in this class. And he's doing it on the outside, 6'3", 195. He's got a little bit of a slender frame, but he's stretching the field at that size. This is a player that, unlike Denzel Boston, is going to consistently threaten vertically and get over the top of safeties. And not only with speed, but with route running as well. We've seen that this season. So he's kind of, I wouldn't call him a complete wide receiver. I wouldn't say that he's like entering a crazy like elite tier in terms of the players that we've seen come through Camp Dynasty, but he's certainly helped himself considerably from this last seain.
Another player, 0 drops so far this season. Only 4 missed tackles forced. I think that's the big, like, not the best after the catch. It's not like he's a bad player after the catch. He's just not making a lot of guys miss, not breaking a lot of tackles. but already ahead of schedule compared to the rest of his career, where last year he had 6 missed tackles for us, the year prior he had 5. So it's looking like it's an improvement in terms of just like the numbers part of it, where he's at least like doing that more often this year. But excited to see what the rest of the year has in store for Carnell Tate.
So my number 6 is Elijah Sarratt.
He's my 5.
I mean, I think he's a my guy.
Yeah.
And
can he be a my guy too?
I think he's an
I
our
have him
guy.
higher than you, so I think he's a guy.
Yeah, I don't think I can say he's a my guy if you have him higher than me. So,
I think Indiana is the Camp Dynasty seal of approval team of the
year. Definitely is. Yeah, Sarratt he's just awesome. I mean, I'm still not entirely sure what his ceiling looks like at the NFL, but I'm almost tired of saying that because we have seen so many of these guys come through the league as like low ceiling type of guys and just be absolute beasts, because these are guys that can win over the middle, that can beat zone coverage, that can hold their own against man coverage. He can play inside, he can play outside. I mean, he is one of these guys where like you might have looked at him coming into the year, and I think I might have even said this in the summer. He was a top 5 wide receiver for me in the summer, number 5, I believe. It's sort of like one of these kind of jack of all trades guys where he's more of a possession wide receiver. He's not going to blow you away with athleticism or anything like that. I feel like he's maybe taken the game to a new level this year. He really is like, I mean, just in terms of the production, obviously 533 yards, 7 touchdowns. He's been clearly their number 1 option. The last 2 weeks in particular, he's over 120 yards in both of those games. We talked about him after the Iowa game, gave him a badge that week. This week at Oregon, big game, massive game. He was the guy once again, 121 yards and a touchdown in that game. I mean, he is just the kind of player that I think is one of these new age NFL wide receiver types. I think he is one of these guys that's going to come in. He's not going to look like these, superstar guys that we're used to seeing, but in the right offense, I think Sarratt could be a huge, huge weapon.
Yeah, really impressive, consistent, like number 1 target funnel kind of wide receivers where you can throw it to him out of any alignment, any part of the field. And I love what he's done in the short area so far this season, because I think a lot of what you saw last year was more of the proper X receiver routes almost, where he's catching it along the sideline. He's running these comebacks. He's running these like deep curl routes, these digs where he's finding holes in zones. I've been really impressed with just his like how fast he can get open. And that's something that I didn't really like expect to see, because it felt like he wasn't showing that kind of athleticism and that kind of quick twitch athleticism, where it's like, I just don't know if Sarratt has that. And this season, it feels like these slants, he's getting open immediately, and Mendoza's putting it on his numbers. And he's running like these zig routes at his size, which is impressive. I know I've said before, like a zig route is a fake route to determine if you can run, if you're like a good route runner. I mean, if you're like 5'10", 190, when you're 6'2", 213, and you're pulling that out of your bag, it's like, okay, I can respect that a little bit. But also like the stuff around the sideline, making guys miss and like breaking tackles, like the frame that he has combined with the fluidity and a little bit more of the quick twitch. It's not like he's like a freak athlete, but he has added that dimension to his game where it's just like, I just didn't know that you had that kind of burst to you. So has one of my favorite stats, and this started with like Roman Wilson a few years ago, where it's like, yeah, 75% of his catches resulted in first downs. 31 of his 39
Yep.
catches have gone for a first down or better. So we're talking about obviously the 7 touchdowns, but take those away, and he is like not just putting together like empty stat numbers where he's just getting targets and catches and just like kind of filling up the stat sheet. All of these are meaningful. He's putting together a really good season.
Yeah, it's been really fun to see. That 31, I mean, that's tied for the lead in college football right now. That is the tied for the most catches for first downs this season. Also want to shout out his missed tackles force number.
Yep.
This is not a player that is known for being a yak player. We talked about that a few weeks ago, even like when I think it was with that Iowa game, because he had a pretty good yak game that week. It's like this really never been his game across his entire career. But this year, I mean, he's showing a little bit of extra juice. Maybe he's got 7 missed tackles forced through the 6 games. His career high for a season is 11. So he's on pace to set a season high in that regard. And in some cases, it's, you know, he's breaking through tackles like that Iowa game that was on full display in that fourth quarter. But I mean, he, like you said, I think things are just starting to really come together, coalesce for him into a full package as a senior player here. So yeah, he's one that I don't know where the NFL draft community, I don't know where the NFL themselves are going to sit on a guy like this, but I just can't imagine that he escapes like the top 45 picks. Like when guys like Jalen Polk go 39 or whatever, like you can't tell me that this player can't go in that range.
Every game that he's had at least 8 targets, he's had over 90 yards. So this is a player that, like, if you feed him the ball, he's going to produce for you. I could see him pretty easily being, you know, a second round pick in the NFL. Just a, like, again, high floor is like maybe a dirty word for some people, but I think that you should just, you know, draft this guy and just set him and just throw the ball his direction. Good things will happen.
Man, I love it. Our guy. Sarratt. We got another our guy coming up, I think. Is he coming up like right now? Wait, where are we?
Year 5, I think.
So he is coming up right now because it's Jonah Coleman.
All right, he's my 4.
There it is. Jonah Coleman. This was a player in the summer we were very excited about. I think both of us came into the running back rankings episode like, I don't know what the other one's going to think about Jonah Coleman, but I'm going to put him here at number 2. And then lo and behold, we both had him at number 2. He is having a good year, starting to tail off a little bit. I mean, he had a really, really hot start. We gave him badges, I think, like every week in the first 3 weeks or something like that. But the stat lines are starting to cool off a little bit. I think this Washington team, I can't tell if I like this quarterback that they have. I think he's a true freshman. So I think there's some buzz with him because he's like a dual threat guy. But like every time I watch them, I just feel like I come away a little bit like, I don't know what's going on with this offense. But regardless, what?
He's too small.
Yeah, I don't.
A high schooler.
But Jonah Coleman this season, 518 yards, 11 touchdowns. 11 touchdowns does lead college football. He is the number 1 rushing touchdowns leader right now. But the last couple games here, getting into the Big Ten schedule, had a decent day against Ohio State, 70 yards, and then 57 yards against Maryland and 44 yards against Rutgers. So the pure production numbers have started to taper off. But one thing that I've liked that we're seeing this year from Coleman is that the pass catching stuff is coming back, because this is something that we talked about in the summer, where when he was at Arizona in 2023, he was more involved as a pass catcher. And I remember even watching him that season and feeling like, this, you know, who's this guy? Because he's catching passes, this little bowling balls, getting out on a swing pass and making a play on that. So the fact that they didn't really feature him in that way at Washington last year was a little bit confusing to me, and it seems like they are starting to potentially rectify that He has 20 catches for 243 yards already this season, had a big game receiving in week 4 against Washington State, 6 catches for 104 yards that week. So while the rushing stuff has kind of taken a step back, which I can't say, why that's happening. I haven't really gotten back into the Jonah Coleman film quite yet to see like if this is a line thing, if this is a him thing. But it's been at least encouraging to see that he's kind of back to being one of these dual threat running backs.
Yeah, I like what I'm seeing out of Coleman. From what I've watched revisiting, it feels like line up against a lot of loaded boxes. That's why you feel that like early season success, and then you get to late in the season when they got a little more tape on this Washington offense, and they're like, they're going to give it to number one, 27 times or 24 times, and which he did week 1 against Colorado State when he had a $177, and so they haven't been giving it to him as much. The missed tackles forced numbers are buoyed by that week 2 game against UC Davis, where he had 10 missed tackles forced, but still 10 more outside of that. Just love how he is as a runner, where he's an aggressive runner, but also picks his spots. I think that's a kind of level of maturity that he maybe wasn't showing his first couple of years, the tape that I watched at least, where it felt like he was an aggressive runner at a fault maybe. But this year it feels like maybe we're trying to find extra yards rather than find a hat to put your hat on, But the pass catching numbers are very encouraging. 243 yards already so far this year is really nice. 0 drops is very nice. And then obviously finding the end zone is always a good thing when you have a running back, because he's doing that at different levels where he can take a long one to the house. He can do that, but he can also be your, battering ram and kind of get into that goal line and see, which trench guys are going to win it. And then Jonah Coleman can pound his way in. So I haven't seen anything discouraging from this year with Jonah Coleman. So he stays put for me.
Also do want to point out 490 career carries, 0 fumbles.
There it is.
That streak is still alive as we sit today.
Now he fumbles next week.
Yeah, I'm very sorry, Jonah, for doing that to you. But all right, so we are on number 3 then, right?
Yep, and I think we're both having a glass of lemonade.
We're gonna have a couple glasses of lemonade.
That's right. Makai Lemon is our number 3 player, and just incredibly impressive season that he's putting together. Pretty much has almost met his numbers from last year when it comes to counting stats, but the way that he's doing it is like just phenomenal. This is predominantly a slot receiver, 66% of the time, 2/3 of the time in the slot, third of the time out wide, putting together 4.16 yards per route run. We're talking about like JSN type of numbers in the efficiency categories, where he's coming on this field and he's coming on to, catch these like the route running on top of the catch point stuff, on top of the yards after the catch stuff, is all working in concert with one another to bring together this 682 yards, 6 touchdown season on 42 catches. We're talking about just a fantastic season. 15 missed tackles forced so far this season. We've been talking about it's pretty good. Sarratt has 7, and Lemon has over double that. So we're talking about this guy 4 for 6 contested catches, just incredibly impressive top to bottom season from Makai Lemon.
Yeah, this was my number 2 wide receiver coming into the season, but I kept likening him to Jalen Noel. The player that I saw in film last year was very Noel-esque. He was very, explosive, very, very, threatening player in terms of taking the top off from the slot. Tough player, had a tough demeanor on the field, and I liked him a lot. But I also was like, he would be my number 8 wide receiver last year. So like, that's kind of the state of the class. This season, he has
He's
leveled
different.
up.
Yeah.
He is leveled up. Yeah. Yeah. And it's one of those things too, where like last season, it was right about this time that he turned it on for USC. Mention that too. Like when you look at the numbers from last year, it was like 764 yards or something like that. A lot of that, most of that came in the second half of the season. So it was one of those things for me where when I watched him in the summer, I was kind of like, I really, really liked how he ended this season. I think he might come into this year and have a big year. But the thing is, he's having like a monster year, and he's doing things that he wasn't necessarily doing last year, namely being an absolute force after the catch. Like he had good yak numbers last year in terms of like the peer, like yak per reception. But I remember one of my notes on him from the summer wasn't a super elusive player. Like he wasn't making guys miss at a super high clip, given how explosive he was. Like he's covering ground. He's getting out of into his route and just covering ground in an instant. He's getting off of his breaks well, but he's not really one of these players that's using that skill set in the open field with the ball in his hands. This year, he has become an untackleable monster in the open field. And so that's the kind of thing that is now taking him from, smaller slot wide receiver, good separator, good speed, to like you might actually be, a high end wide receiver prospect, because now you're talking about one of these guys where you throw out a name like JSN for the yards per route run number. I'm not saying he's JSN, but what I'm saying is we see this progression in the NFL with these players that are living in the slot, that are catching the ball over the middle and transitioning into yards after the catch players and having massive seasons doing that, because they're able to beat zone coverage and they're able to beat man coverage when they need to do that. And they're able to get extra yards when the ball comes their way. That's exactly what Makai Lemon is. And one of the things that you just referenced too is something that I found really interesting. He is playing more outside this year. That was something that I wondered if they were going to try with him, because he was so heavily in the slot last year. And I was like, I feel like he could play outside if he needed to, like split him out wide, get him playing from the Z position. But like, I think that's something that he can do. And this year they're allowing him to do that a little bit more. The splits are not as dramatic for him in terms of, slot versus, out wide as it was last year. So he's in the slot 66% of the time this year versus 85% last year. So they're giving him a little bit more responsibility. They're moving him around a little bit. They're finding ways to get the ball in his hands, and he's having an amazing season.
Yeah, just technically sound also. Like we talk about the flash and the run after catch and all these things, but the way that he approaches route running is extremely impressive, and just like especially from the outside, because I just wanted to mention that because we talked a lot about his slot work and what he can do out of that. But when you throw him at either the X or the Z position, and he's lined up either against press, which he can win against because of his quickness, great footwork, good hands, good strength. But when he's like has a guy with cushion against him because of that speed that he has, he will eat that up and then like break you down. And that is always like, oh, okay, so you can do this. This is a big time, like you are marking that you are a freaky wide receiver that can do a little bit of everything. So yeah, when draft class gives you lemons, you make lemonade.
Is this standard lemonade? Is this raspberry lemonade? I mean,
No, this is the Panera Bread heart attack lemonade.
This is the this kind of speed can kill you.
Yeah, that's right.
He is the charged lemonade.
Charged lemonade, that's what it's called.
There it is.
Yeah.
But yeah, to answer a question that I posed a few weeks ago, as of right now, this is a first round wide receiver for me. He has elevated himself to being a first round graded wide receiver for me at this point. So that is another one of the encouraging parts of this class, is that even though the bottom of this round has not really filled in yet, some of these guys that were kind of in the middle of the round when we were in the summer have elevated their games and have filled in on the top. So the top is not looking quite as sparse as it previously was either.
Agree.
But the tippy top has remained the same. Unless one of us has pulled an absolute fast one.
No, this is Jordyn Tyson for me at number 2.
Okay, so I was gonna ask.
Yeah.
Did you consider making a change here? Did you think about it?
I can't say that it would be dishonest to say that I did. I was locked in with Tyson at 2 pretty much the whole time. And it's not due to like, I think Tyson is worse than our number 1 guy. It's just like the value at the position lines up, and the other guy is also a freak. So it just happens this way, where you'd have to do something unbelievable to unseat the guy that we have at number 1. So I'm assuming you also have Tyson at 2.
I do. Okay. I probably thought about it a little bit harder than that. Like I did take a second to be like, huh.
Yeah.
But ultimately, I think it one of the things you said there, positional. I think it's hard to say no to a running back at this level of talent, even if maybe the Tyson grade and the Love grade are starting to get a little bit squeezed together for me at the moment. Tiebreaker probably going to the running back, but that honestly is just to say how good of a player Jordyn Tyson is.
Yeah, exactly. Has made Arizona State for me must see TV. Like I'm like I gotta, I'm working Friday nights, Saturday nights, and I'm like, when's Arizona State play? What's going on here? And flip that on while I work a little bit and see what number 0 is up to. Has been just like the model of consistency in terms of like churning out consistent production. Arizona State knows who Jordyn Tyson is also, which I really appreciate, because some of these guys just don't get the volume that you want. They just don't get the targets or the carries. And Tyson, he's getting has at least 8 targets in every game, at least 11 in all but one. Also has a game with 16 and 17 targets. So they are force feeding Tyson, and I appreciate it because he's awesome, and I want to see him with the ball in his hands as much as possible. Obviously, last week a little bit of an outlier against Utah because they didn't have Sam Levitt back there, starting quarterback. He was hurt, so I had 8 catches on 16 targets for 40 yards. It's just like, try to get 0 the ball, man. That's the only way we're going to win this thing. Didn't work. But throughout the season has been really consistent. Good route runner. This is 6'2", 200-pound ex-receiver. Plays, what? I lost my number. 72% of the snaps on the outside, 27% of the snaps in the slot. So we're talking about a guy that's playing most of the time outside, but is also exceptionally good in the slot because of his technical abilities, because he can, catch the ball in a variety of spots. He can run after the catch. He has 5 missed tackles for us, which isn't crazy good. Maybe would want that to be a little better, but I love watching Jordyn Tyson. Just a fun player and pretty. I don't know if he's easily like my wide receiver 1, like I would have said at the beginning of the season, but still easily my wide receiver 1.
Lemon getting up there for you.
Yeah. He's. I wouldn't say threatening the wide receiver 1 spot, but he's at least like, making it more interesting.
Yeah, certainly has closed the gap. There was a Grand Canyon sized gap between Tyson and Lemon for me in the summer. Tyson and my wide receiver 2 in the summer. That has certainly closed, but Tyson still to me is easily the number 1 wide receiver, if nothing else, because he just offers you size in addition to having a skill set that is, very on par with a lot of these smaller players in the class. Like, he's not huge. He's 200 pounds, but 6'2", 200 pounds. I mean, that's, you have the size to consistently play outside. You can move him inside too. I mean, he was playing a lot more inside outside last season. They've moved him more outside this year, but that's something I would expect to see at the NFL level, where they're just going to move him around the formation and get him matched up where they need to, whether that's in the slot or, at either outside position. Like, he's going to be one of those types of wide receivers that is that versatile. The one thing I'll say is that the one area of his game that I think it was sort of one of those McMillan situations where it was like, you do everything except, like, you're not a big yak threat. And I would say that through 6 games, like, he has not shown another level to his yak ability. There was a little bit of that in the beginning of the season where I think it was kind of like, is it happening?
Yeah.
Like, is he becoming a yak player too? Because at that point, it's like, he's an easy top 10 grade for me at that point. But it started to level off just a little bit, where I'm wondering if that's going to be a big part of his evaluation or not. If it's not, it's fine. I mean, like, you look at a guy like Marvin Harrison Jr., who had, minus yak in his scouting report,
And he's
didn't
bad.
matter. Well, that's right. I forgot.
It does matter because he's bad.
It does matter a lot. He sucks. But yeah, outside of that, I mean, he's doing everything he was doing last year. Easy separator, tough as hell, all the way down to a great blocker. The contested numbers have been a little bit, like, down this year, but it's something that is going to ebb and flow. You can't expect guys to be, at 60% every year. Not everybody's Carnell Tate, apparently, but in this case, it's 5 for 12, 41%. I mean, they've had some, the quarterback stuff. He was 0 for 2 this week with the new quarterback, so that's factoring into that as well. So it's stuff like that where, maybe the counting stats aren't like, again, I'm gonna keep hammering this Neighbors thing. Like, when we saw the Neighbors and Odunze seasons happening, and it was like, holy shit, these guys literally can't be stopped. It hasn't been like that level of dominance on the stat sheet, but I can almost guarantee you that the film is as dominant, if not more dominant, than it was last year.
Yeah, I would agree. I would love to see him be, a more consistent yards after the catch guy, but every game he's played with his starting quarterback, he's scored a touchdown and put together good numbers. So I will keep hammering the table for Jordyn Tyson. I don't think anybody's really contesting that.
So number one is the same. You're in the
Number one.
same position that we were in the summertime. Jeremiyah Love.
Jeremiyah Love. Not a ton more to say to add on to what we've been talking about, other than, like, beginning of the season, literally just week 1. It was weird, and the narrative carried over to week 2 because they had to bye. But you play Miami, only have 10 carries, 33 yards, and the whole question surrounding Jeremiyah Love, I think, was like, what is the workload going to look like? Can he get 25 touches per game? Is he going to be able to carry the load? And he only gets 10 carries, turns it out to 3.3 yards per carry, and it's like, what the hell? What is going on with Jeremiyah Love? Ever since then has been, really consistent, outside of, an inefficient week against Arkansas, 14 carries, 57 yards, still had 2 touchdowns though, and was good through the air in that game with 5 catches for 70 yards. So even when he's not producing on the ground, producing through the air, and that's exactly what you want out of these, like, blue chip dynasty prospects, these blue chip dynasty running backs, is, can they find more than one way to score fantasy points? Because you don't want your guy to only be like a plotter that gets goal line touchdowns. You don't want your guy to only be a PPR merchant. You just want to have a guy that can do exactly what Jeremiyah Love does, and it's be efficient on the ground, be efficient through the air, be like score touchdowns, be a freak athlete, be able to take the top off a defense from running the ball, from being a receiver. Like, Jeremiyah Love is just the type of guy that you're looking for, and feels like an oasis in a desert in this running back class.
Yeah, that's for sure. Bijan Robinson is
Right.
the player that you're describing, because he's apparently a wide receiver 1 now, in addition to being a
Yeah, yeah. Him and Devon Achane.
yeah, exactly. But yeah, no, that's a great point, because Love, I mean, when you look at again, when you look at pure numbers, and I would have loved for this to have been a Genty, a Bijan, like where we can come here every week, we can give him a badge every week, we can, by week 7 we're sitting here like I don't even know what to talk about anymore. Like we keep talking about him every week. Like that hasn't been the season that he's had. He's had a really good year. He just hasn't had that, dominant week to week. Like he is obviously the best running back in the sport right now. But that is not to say that he's not having a great season. It's not to say that he's losing any real estate in terms of being the RB1, in terms of being the 101 overall in this class. And in part because he is showing that ability as a pass catcher on the weeks when he is not, factoring in as much as a running back. I mean, he's getting carries. He's getting more carries this year. That's something that we were looking for. Will they get the ball in his hands more often? He has 100 carries this year already through 6 games. Only had 162 all of last season. So on pace to break that total this year. The efficiency numbers have gone down. I mean, 6.9 versus 5.3 yards per carry this year. Really, all the counting numbers have gone down. I mean, everything when you look at the season in terms of the yards after contact per attempt number, that's something we really praised him for, because he was so noted for his speed and his acceleration and his breakaway ability. But it was like, hold on a second, he's a really physical runner too. That number has gone down from 4.39 to 3.64. And the missed tackles forced number has also gone down. When we look at that at a per attempt basis as well, he was at 0.38 last year. He's down to 0.26 this year. So again, it's like the numbers are kind of going down for him, but I wouldn't say that that's any reason to start, panicking and thinking like, what's wrong with Jeremiyah Love? I think it's just one of those things where we have to wait, get into the film. We've already seen some amazing moments from him this season, so it's nothing like that. But maybe just a little bit of a reminder that maybe he's not quite on that Bijan level,
Right. Yeah,
like
I would say
that's
that
it.
that's the case. It's like he's not that tier 1 dynasty sell everything in your on your team and in your pick cupboard for 101 this year, unless you are desperate. But still is in that maybe tier 2 dynasty asset where you feel really good about this player, and you can feel good starting him pretty early in your dynasty season, but don't expect him to be the savior of your dynasty franchise maybe.
And maybe the last 7 games he just goes nuclear,
Yeah.
and then we're
Yeah.
like, wait, never mind.
Yeah,
Yeah,
maybe it's 160 all-purpose yards per game,
yeah.
and he walks away with the Heisman. It's like, yeah, well, never mind. Forget what I said.
Well, that's 12 players from each of us at the midseason point. The most change we've ever had
Yeah.
in only 7 weeks. But I think well warranted and and expected too. I mean, this was the sort of class where we expected a lot of movement, very fluid situation, and we're seeing it manifest right now. And that's going to continue to happen as over the second half of this season. When we get into rankings 2.0, I would expect things to be a little bit shaken up even from where they are here. But I will say the picture is starting to get a little bit clearer. It's starting to feel like these position groups and the overall picture of the class maybe starting to take a little bit of shape.
Yeah, I'd say so. I think there's still going to be a decent amount of change between now and end of season, but I don't think it's going to be as drastic as it was between summer and now. I think it's maybe a reshuffling of like these top 15 guys, I would imagine. I don't know if anybody's going to be breaking out over the last 7 games of the season and inserting their name into this conversation. But if they are, I'm on board, man, because, the more the better.
So who are some of the guys that just missed the cut for you on this one?
I mean, I entertained sliding some of these quarterbacks in here with, like Mendoza maybe, but it's just hard because he doesn't have a ton of like scrambling in his bag. Dante Mart also another one of those guys. The running backs are pretty desolate in this class, so didn't really have a ton there. Kenyon Sadiq was a tight end that I had thrown out there that I was like, I might throw him in here, but I already had Stowers, and I didn't really think a second tight end would be warranted. On the IDP side of things, maybe like Caleb Downs was a interesting name that I was like, he's might be the best player in the class, but I don't think you throw in the NFL draft class. I don't know if you throw him in as a DB already into here, but yeah, they're just not a ton that I was like dying to get into the first round. I'll say that.
So for me, it's Stowers and Sadiq are the guys that are kind of banging on the door here. I think I kind of touched on this, but Sadiq was a player that I was really excited to see what this year was going to hold for him. He has not been as involved as a receiver in this offense that I had hoped for. I mean, especially when you consider the fact that they lost Evan Stewart before the season, and it was like, who's going to be catching passes for them? It seemed like Sadiq was a natural answer for that. That hasn't really manifested. So we're still waiting to kind of see how he's going to end his season. But I still have both of those guys here. To be quite honest with you, I think the IDPs are where like a lot of these guys are kind of knocking on the door right now. They're like, let me into the first round. Why can't, Arvell Reese be a first round dynasty pick? Why can't Sonny Styles flirt with being a first round pick? I mean, these are the kinds of guys that I'm kind of looking at in this range.
In my first draft of my top 12, I did have Arvell Reese in the first round. I was like, I had Bain and him, and I was like, I just don't know. Like, I couldn't be confident enough to put my stamp of approval on that.
Yeah, I don't have enough conviction yet to say for certain that I think Reese belongs in that conversation, but it feels like, I mean, if there's a name right now in the draft community that is like the one right now, it's certainly Reese. Everybody is talking about Reese for good reason. It's an absolute freak show.
Yeah.
I'm just curious what the NFL is going to do with him.
Yep.
I don't think the answer to that question is known yet of like, will the NFL view him as an edge player because of his athleticism and the fact that he's playing off the edge for Ohio State in some cases. So waiting to see that. But I do think guys like Styles, I still have Anthony Hill in this conversation. Like this linebacker class is very, very good. TJ Parker, still a player that I like. He's not having a big year, but he's still here for me in this conversation. And yeah, Caleb Downs. I mean, I don't know if it's in the conversation for 13, 14, but he's certainly in the conversation with the next few picks after that. So there's a lot of names here to keep an eye on, a lot of guys that could have potential to kind of move into this, 11, 12 spot in over the coming weeks. And I do also want to point out, or shout out, I should say, Eric Singleton Jr., who is a player that I had in my top 12 going into this season, not having a big statistical year for Auburn. So I did dive in a little bit to what's going on there just to see how it's going for him. I was pleasantly surprised with what I saw from him. So I don't think the Eric Singleton experiment is necessarily over. I don't think he's going to be a first round player like I had him coming into the season, but I saw some encouraging things on the Auburn film from this year already. So he's a player that I'm kind of keeping in this range as well for right now.
Hell yeah, brother.
All right. Well, next week back to regularly scheduled programming. Dish out some badges for week 8 and keep that going through the second half of the season, building up to the point where we dive all the way into these players and start really ranking these guys, rankings 2.0. It's not that far away. This episode snuck up on me, so that the rankings 2.0 stuff, that's going to do the same, I'm sure.
Yeah, it always does. It feels like you're, getting ready for the season one week, and then it's, the NFL draft is around the corner the next. So we'll see.
I was like, when is the combine this year?
Yeah,
I'm already thinking about that again. So like, that's where we
drive down
are.
to Indy,
So,
you know?
Yep. If you enjoyed our mid-season rankings check-in, be sure to find us on Twitter. Hit us up there. Let us know, what did you think? What ratings do you agree with? More importantly, which ones don't you agree with? Which player did we have ranked here that you're like, what the hell is wrong with you guys? How do you like this guy? Just let us know on Twitter. Well, we're down to have a civil discourse. That's what Twitter's all about, right? Civil, conversations, no name calling or anything. But of course, if you are watching on YouTube, be sure to subscribe to the channel and like this video if you enjoyed before you leave, because we appreciate that a lot. Helps the channel, helps us. And if you're listening on the pod feed, you can like, you can follow, you can leave a rating. If you're feeling really spicy, you can leave a review even. I mean, there's so many options.
Comment on Spotify these days. Throw a comment down there too.
I still don't know how to do that myself, but sometimes I see them come through and I'm like, that's a thing that can happen. So do that. Let us know what you're thinking about things. So, but yeah, we are, obviously this is an exciting one, getting the rankings back out there. If you're finding us, if you're searching Dynasty 2026 Dynasty rankings and you found us here, welcome to the show. We hope you stick around and kind of dive into the second half of the season with us.
Yeah, if you thought that this was long and you've also watched the LeBron James Space Jam, you spent 2 hours doing worse.
Amen to that. So thanks for stopping by Camp Dynasty this week, and we'll see you next week.